Hello everybody, my name is Poison Ducky and we're going to have another Total War Warhammer 2 replay. This is going to be the first time I showcase the Dawi, the Dwarves, the Stunties, the Metal Midgets themselves. It's just a fun army of little... I love them. They're armored, they have tons of, you'd think that being so armored and, elite, per se, you wouldn't bring too many Dwarves, especially when they're fighting Greenskins and Skaven. Dwarven armies actually tend to have a lot of numbers. My opponent, on the other hand, is going to be Averlorn, the little sub-faction of the High Elves. They get Treekin units and Dryads, but I do not believe my opponent will be using them. But with that out of the way, let's get into the army introductions. I'm going to have a pseudo-dwarf onion here. Now, my playstyle with dwarves is I do like the onion strategy where you peel back layers and layers of units, but I usually do have a much smaller ranged component. I bank on the ability that my opponent wants to break into the onion. They're going to make sure their army composition, they're going to bring chariots, they're going to bring large dragons, giants, mammoths. They're going to bring units to break through the front line, make it into the center of my onion with full force. Now, knowing that most opponents try to go for this, I usually bring very few ranged components, and if at all, at least if I do bring a few, I bring cheap ones. So they're more expendable, and if easier to defend since I bring less. Now, I'm going to have 2 units of miners with blasting charges. Pretty decent unit overall, very good. Throws charges, I love them. They're just armor piercing, fantastic unit. Blasting charges are fun. I just like how you literally C4 is in this game, or nitro cells. Like if you play Siege, these guys just throw a shit ton of nitro cells at you. Oops, I said a bad word. But I'm going to have a secondary line of dwarf warriors, including the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass. Warriors of Dragonfire Pass being anti-infantry, so they're a little bit better when fighting spearmen, so I expect them to do well. I'm going to have units of Longbeards with Weapons. Good unit. I was bringing these just in case they bring Swordmasters of Hoeth, as Swordmasters of Hoeth are kind of an issue for the Dwarven matchup, as unless guns, thunders, cannons, grudge throwers can deal with them, but once they make it into melee combat, Swordmasters can deal quite a number. And I'm going to bring the Grumbling Guard. It says their leadership is 103, and that they're not unbreakable, but let's be completely honest, guys. These guys are unbreakable. I don't know what they say. These guys do not rout. I don't understand why they don't say it. The Dwarven Grumblers, they don't run. I'm going to have the Dragonback Slayers, a very good Regiment of Renown Slayer unit. Overall, the amazing part about this unit that a lot of people don't realize why you should pick this is because they have the power of the Dragonback, which increases their flame. They may become weak to flame. That's not the part. It's the minus 36% speed. So once you catch a unit with the Dragonback Slayers, they get properly stuck, as the ability to just stop them is very, very potent, as dwarves aren't very good at chasing people. Now, I'm going to have 1 unit of cannons, 2 units of crossbows, quarrelers. I wasn't expecting that much armor on their side, and I only brought 1 unit of thunderers. Only 1 unit is all that's needed. You'll be noticed here, I didn't bring any runesmiths. No rune lord, no rune smiths, just the mighty Slayer King himself, Ungrim Ironfist, the unbreakable armored armor piercing. I brought him along just in case I see dragons, maybe dragon princes. He's a really good lord. Even against infantry itself, very powerful. My opponent, on the other hand, is going to go with a very standard high elf build in terms of units, although he is missing a few core units to round out his army. He's going to have white lions of Trace. Really good unit overall. Armored piercing, armored, very good against dwarven warriors or miners without any sort of great weapons. They'll struggle against the grumblers and the longbeards, but overall a good pick. He's going to have spears. It's going to wide frontal line formation. Spears dotted with some white lines. Really powerful in most matchups. And I would say in this one too, well, especially the white lines. Now he's going to have some Sisters of Averlorn dotted with some Lothern Seaguard. Now these are all archer units, but Lothern Seaguard being archer units that can defend themselves in melee, specifically very well against large, easy, cheap cavalry. Not so much against the dwarves. An interesting matchup that he chooses Lothern Seaguard when I have no real cavalry to pressure the back line of white high elves. Of course, he's going to bring the Everqueen's Court Guards, just a better unit, decent melee combat, and they're just Sisters of Avalorn are just one of the core units of the High Elf roster. If you can bring them, they can do a lot of damage. And he's going to have one unit of Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, nothing too special. And of course, the Lord is going to be Alariel. Can't go wrong. Alariel is probably one of the most strongest lords out there in terms of magic capabilities, other than maybe Teclis, right? So with the armies out of the way, let's get into this replay. I'm going to be repositioning my units. I'm going to use my Warriors of Dragonfire Pass and my Dwarven Warriors in general to move to the left. Do you know why I do this? He has 2 spear units on the left, and he has 2 units of White Lions over here. I noticed this, so what do? You send the good matchups against the units they're meant to do. Longbeards with Great Weapons, they have armor piercing, so they go against the White Lions. I notice, hey, that's another White Lions. What do I send against? The Grumbling Guards. So be very careful and be very intuitive of the enemy army. You have time. They're just still approaching my army, so I'm going to get the best possible matchup for what units I have. Dwarf Warriors can deal with Spearmen, no problem. Spearmen have almost no armor-piercing values, and Dwarf Warriors 85 armor. It's going to be tough. Now, the ranged component of my enemy High Elf army is going to be pecking my units. He's going to be focusing down my Thunderers and my Quarrelers, which is a good choice, as the best way to deal with the High Elf ranged infantry is going to be shooting at them with my own. So as my Quarrelers get shot at and my Thunderers get shot at, the frontline engagement begins. I'm going to get a good charge into the Spearmen. Unfortunately, he used the Spearmen as sort of a... Ooh, look at that explosion. He's going to use the Spearmen as a buffer as my Longbeards battle them, but it's Longbeards versus two clumps of units, the White Lions and the Spearmen. It's going to be a good battle for me, as the armor-piercing values of both the Miners and the Longbeards should do away with the White Lions of Thrace. Now, if you guys notice, let's slow down here. My opponent didn't bring any large units. Now, Slayers are anti-large units. They're meant to kill cavalry. They're meant to kill large dragon ogres, dragons. I was expecting. My opponent did not bring any. But Dragonback Slayers are fast, for a dwarf at least, at 40-ish speed. So what am I going to use them? I'm going to use them as a flanking unit. Remember, everybody, just because they don't have the right matchups, you can still use them effectively as units. Just look at the Dragonback Slayers are going to loop around. I'm going to move them a little. Come on, guys, I believe in you. But I'm going to, yeah, see, I move them here. I use the control key. I make them go. I'm going to flank these Spearmen and deal a massive blow to them. Now, Thunders are going to get some good value off into these White Lions, and the Star of Avalorn are going to go off and heal the units, but they route out of the healing center, and the left flank is collapsing. Warriors of Dragonfire Pass deal with Spearmen very effectively, and I'm just going to have the Giant Slayers and Dwarf Warriors just charge at the Sisters of Avalorn. These are shielded units. They will block a lot of the damage incoming, especially when they're charging like this. Like, the arrows are effective, but here comes the power of the Dwarves. He's going to have to fall back because you do not want to have Sisters fight Dwarves in a melee encounter. So at this point, the balance of power is actually in my opponent's favor. He has gotten lots of the value out of his Sisters of Avalorn and his Lothern Sea Guards, while I've been mostly stuck in a melee-focused fight. He has shot down my cannon with his Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, and they've got some value, 27 kills, but mainly I only brought the cannon just to take out Dragon Princes if he had any, and with no Dragon Princes, there was not too much value. Now, a banishment is going to go down among my Dwarves. Dwarves do have 25% magical resistance, though. It's not going to deal that much damage. You can expect magic doing a lot less, especially against Dwarf. Alariel really shouldn't be using. She should definitely be focusing on her healing. Now, my opponent's going to do something rather smart. I believe I showcased this in the Dark Elf video previously shown. Archers, when you have archers, you should always spread them out, because when chasing one unit, another unit can peck at them and kind of do an Overwatch support fire. With this kind of strategy, he can get value at least out of one archer unit while one is running away. Unfortunately for my opponent, Lothern and Seaguard do not have armor-piercing projectiles. The Sisters do, and that's why you see, even though I'm getting shot in the back, I am just relentlessly chasing the Sisters of Avalorn into the sunset with my dwarves. They're not going to catch them anytime soon, but I have to continuously chase them, put on the pressure, because these units have armor-piercing projectiles. They are a huge threat to my Dwarven warriors, and I need to chase them off the battlefield. Now, the High King himself doing... not fire. The High King, or the Slayer King himself doing rather well. My opponent did not focus Firement at all, and he is just going to run out and do whatever he wants to do. Kill any units he makes contact with. I really wish he could make contact with a Lariel, especially on his Pigeon, because that's the only large unit my opponent has, and Slayer King will do amazing against that. But unfortunately, the Pigeon is just too fast, and it's not going to... With the speed of 110, I'm not going to catch it anytime soon. My Slayers do get into the back line, Eagle Plot Throwers. Unfortunately, they do get most of their ammo already spent, so they've gotten their value. Only 25 kills, but they've probably done a lot of HP damage. But my Slayers, along with my Slayer King, will deal with them, quite frankly, and promptly. With a little help with some Dwarf Warriors. Now, these guys are going to rout off very quickly, and the balance of power is actually now in my favor. So I had a little swing there. Lost a lot of dwarves to the power of the archers, and my Corlers did well. Even though they got pressured slightly by the enemy Avalorns and the Lothern Seaguard, they're going to get some backfire into the White Lions, break off any melee infantry they have left. And at this point, we can see they only have ranged infantry left. This is quite an issue because I will just run them down. I will be slower, but eventually they're going to reach the edges of the map. As you over here, you can see in the left, I'm going to have a unit of Dwarf Warriors chasing another unit of Sisters of Avalorn, just chasing them into the oblivion, to the sunset. It's okay. I have two units. Let's see, wait. I have a unit right here. So a unit here chasing the Sisters. I have a unit here chasing another Lothern Seaguard unit, and it's not only that, it's the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass, so they will do well against this Spearman. And with no effective front line, the High Elf player is just going to run and run. My back line is going to get pressured by Alariel, as she does have the speed advantage, and will get into my back line. I'm too busy chasing all these archers. You might want to say the play is to concave on Alariel whenever she dives into a unit of Corals, which I do have a unit firing at her, just to do some Overwatch protection. But in the end, Alariel is too little of a threat. She's going to get into my gunners. It's okay. She's going to lose actually quite a bit of health from that. But my units are going to continuously chase the units. The Sisters are getting caught in the corners of the map. And when that happens, melee combat will ensue. All the way in the far left of the fire, finally, Jesus, the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass will finally meet the Lothern Seaguard, and it's going to be a melee to the death. Of course, with this so close to the edge of the map, when they rout, they instantly leave the battle, and Warriors of Dragonfire Pass are essentially built to fight Lothern Seaguard. So it's a good matchup overall. I'm quite happy. We finally chase off those pesky archers. We're going to have some melee combat over here on the right as well. Not many times do you get to see a bunch of dwarves charging elves in the forest. And I still have some miners left on the battlefield. Who would have known? When you get hit by pickaxes, slayers, dwarf warriors, it's a bad day for the Sisters. And we got even... Oh! Death blow. Alright. Opponent's going to use a Earthblood to try to sustain the HP of these Sisters, but it is far too late, and it's not enough pressure. My units are finally... Alariel is going to get pushed off at the battlefield, and we're going to have a good time. A Pyrrhic victory. Let's get into some unit statistics. It's a little longer battle, but when chasing High Elves, what do you expect? My opponent, it was quite clear that I've already won at this point, but my opponent forced me just, hey, if I have to chase him, I'll chase him. I don't mind. Overall, very good efficiency. Miners did their job. They threw their charges, did 27, 24 kills. So much HP damage from Miners. I really love them. Dwarf Warriors did their job. They charged forward. They took a lot of damage, especially from the White Lions and the arrow fire, but you know what? They're cheap. That's the best thing about Dwarf Warriors. Cheap, armored infantry. No other faction really has the armored capabilities of such a cheap unit. And the Longbeards are really what sent through and broke the front line of White Lions. White Lions are a dangerous unit. especially against dwarves, and that's why I brought longbeards. I was expecting swordmasters a Hoeth, but against white lions, longbeards will do just fine. Slayers, 100 kills and 106 each. Now this unit says anti-large, but if they don't have any large units, you can use them like a berserker unit from Norska. You can use them sort of like any flanking fast. You can almost like use them like use Shopti, if anything, just minus the mass. So once you get units behind the enemy front line into the backs of spearmen or into archers, they rack up quite a few kills. And not only that, they're unbreakable. Unbreakable units are infamous for just making, even though they're so low, they can still rout the enemy unit from pure HP damage output. Quarrelers did well, 55-22. Thunders not so much. Thunders didn't have too much to shoot at, I'll be honest. With the frontline engagement, they lose their line of sight. They can only really fire at archers, and archers aren't very effective. They were focusing the Thunderers, which is the right play. All that armor-piercing damage. But Thunderers did a good amount of HP damage to Lariel and some White Lions, while the Quarrelers can shoot over and deal a lot of damage to the lightly armored units of the High Elves. Cannon, all right, only 27. Wasn't expecting much, as there was no Dragon Princes, no Reavers or anything. So I like this game, and it was a very fun match. First time showcasing the Dwarves, so yeah, I hope you guys liked the video. Subscribe if you want more, and leave a like if you liked it. I'll catch you guys later.